Good morning. Welcome to the channel. Hope you're doing well. It's been a while since I've done one of these, but well, I watched a few videos, a couple of interviews or debates by Jonathan Pageau. First with Reality Rules, I believe his name is, and then by Adam Friended. And I wanted to comment on this and see if I can share a tool which may just help stop the kind of talking past each other that happens in some of these debates. And frankly, I want to offer a, hopefully not too scathing, as I don't want to lose anybody's interest, critique of the debate process itself. So what often happens, or appears to happen, in these discussions, in debate rather, is that you have two individuals who are both trying to win the other to their viewpoint. That means that they believe they are right. They may steelman the other so that they can show that they are in good faith, right? But that is not exactly the same as fully considering that person's view, in inhabiting it. And so what happens is you have two individuals who are putting up barriers and armor. You know, that's their arguments, that's their terms they use, and they're trying to do everything well. And there's an honorable tactic or methodology behind this that can strengthen people's thinking processes in a good way. But now for the critique, there is also a way in which this lessens individuals' flexibility of mind and ability to resolve conflict. We have a huge problem with conflict in our culture nowadays. And arguably we always have. It seems to be exacerbated by various internet tools and various political machinations. So what solution am I offering? Well, this is a formulation of a set of tools me and some friends have been working on for a while, which is why I've not been doing videos lately. This is the simplest form of it I can think of that we've been able to come up with. So imagine that rather than there being this versus, you know, and that's the funny thing about the two debates with Jonathan Pageau is they always had the verses in there. What if that was not the goal? What if the goal rather was a discussion to discover commonality? Now, what is commonality, right? I'm defining commonality very rigidly as that which a group discovers or decides they have in common, and only that. So this makes the personal, or this common sphere that we are developing here, something sacred, something that a person's personal views cannot be injected into, right? The only views that can be injected in there are those that everyone in the group that is discussing this commons allows in. And obviously you're going to want to have good faith players in there, but there's very little there's very little to be gained by being a bad faith actor in this situation, because at worst, all you're doing is slowing things down until they finally say, okay, you know what, we're not getting anywhere with your participation. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. And then they're excluded from the group, right? But obviously you can always include and exclude. Anyway, that's details. So what this means is that when you have, sun is creeping up on my camera. What you have when you respect and keep sacred the commons is you in turn respect and keep sacred the personal. When you do not push your personal into the commons, then both are sacred. And this is really important. And this plays into another principle that I call the reality of the believer. And what this means is that it is real that people have very disparate belief systems and very different ways of thinking. And we can measure how many there are out there. How many are man, the sun just keeps moving. How many are out there who are pushing a view different than yours. And how that slows down everything, right? Are we really thinking it's a good idea to be in this constant debate structure position where we are constantly fighting each other over what is true, over this common ground, and we're fighting and we're trying to get our own personal sphere in there instead of respecting the commons and keeping it sacred, because we have to live with each other, right? We have to live on the same planet, in the same nation, in the same county, in the same city, sometimes in the same family, right? And so it is to our advantage to learn how to work and even, dare I say it, compromise. We don't like compromise nowadays. Why? Because we feel like it is a betrayal of our deeply held, sincerely personal beliefs. But what if the commons respects your deeply held, sincerely held beliefs? What if we stop this game of saying you religious people are excluded, and the religious people going, you atheist types, you're excluded, or you scientific types, and we're going to do our own young earth creationism or whatever. Oh, anyway, I'm not trying to get into that. So what I am suggesting then is that commonality as a methodology, as a way of thinking of the world, as a way of engaging with groups and with people, is a way of developing the tools needed to find common ground and to find not who's the winner, but how we all win. It's a win-win situation. It's a methodology of win-win. It means you have to give up being the kingpin, if you're a YouTuber, of a group of people who want to see you win and want to see their viewpoint win. So you have to give up that. But what you gain instead is a capacity to actually find common ground with people who you might find you have more in common with than you thought. And that gains you credibility with them. I mean, imagine, this has always puzzled me, when a atheist, I happen to be a Christian, and when an atheist lambasts Christianity, I find it very difficult to take them seriously. And yet the atheist type will assume that their rationality will give them all the credibility they need. I don't find this to be the case personally. I find they lose tremendous credibility. And that loss of credibility for them personally tends to influence the rest of their belief structure. So that it took me a long time to accept evolution. It took me a long time to accept a lot of other scientifically valid ideas. And that happened primarily because there was such a loss of credibility for these types, who seemed to act as if me, trying to do the best I can, was the enemy. And some of their arguments are valid about my mistakes and the mistakes of Christianity and such, and I've done my best to upgrade my beliefs. Not to lose them, though, because for me, nothing was realer than my relationship with Jesus. So that is what the atheist is facing in many cases. Every now and then, sure, they win a convert, but the question is that the goal? Is it really the goal to convert people, or to figure out how can we, even though we are completely different, in our worldview, in our way of seeing the world, how can we exist in the same state, city, world, and how can we negotiate for what the problems that need to be solved in our world are? How do we do that? If we are constantly trying to win the argument, I would argue it cannot be done. You will simply put people in a position of seeing you as the enemy and building a bulwark against your belief structure. But if you're in the process of giving away things, so here's an example. What commonality means is, in part, is, for instance, Christians believe Jesus rose from the dead is a common statement. Jesus rose from the dead is not. That's a personal statement. That is an easy thing to agree upon with a Christian, hopefully, right? If you get a particularly strong strain of fundamentalist, they may be like, no, Jesus is Lord. It's not just that we believe it. Well, of course, it's not just that you believe it. Of course, we understand that. But commonly, would you agree, oh Christian, fundamentalist Christian, that I don't believe it? Hopefully they would, right? Probably so, unless they're trying to play the card of, no, you know it's true, but anyway. I wasn't trying to go into that. But the issue is, can you find a position with them to agree with? And that's the goal of commonality, finding what you can agree with and building from there. And as you do that, as you find more and more commonality with the other, you gain more and more credibility to, again, not to convert them, but to find a way to exist in the same human condition with them, the same, all of this, right? We can apply this to politics, we can apply this to religion, to science, to philosophy, to theology, to, I guess, religion, to every dimension of life, so far as I can tell. So this is my suggestion, then. Debate is a flawed process, because it puts people against each other, and that initiates their intent to be guarded. If instead we heighten our commonality with a process that discovers commonality, we might just we might just stop fighting each other and get something worth getting done. All right, thank you for your time. I hope that was helpful.